Marina McFarland, and my final paper for my senior seminar was on Salman Rushdie's The Satanic Verses and his postmodern expressions of the post-colonial condition. And I focused on the way in which Rushdie incorporates intertextuality in his work, and the ways in which the novel's post-colonial content, its themes, characters, plots, is mirrored by its postmodern style. And by postmodernism, I'm going with, well, what Perry Anderson deems the death of the grand narrative, which is on display in the high modernism of writers like James Joyce or Kafka or Virginia Woolf, perhaps. Critic Frederick Jameson believes that the styles of these high modern writers are ripe for what he calls postmodern pastiche, which entails the imitation or mimicry of specific literary styles. Contrary to his more cynical idea that postmodern literature lacks the innovativeness of the modern period and has therefore been reduced to a sort of parasitic mockery, my paper explores the innovative ways in which Rushdie revises and parodies texts, how his text revises and parodies earlier works while exploring the post-colonial condition. The text's main characters, Saladin Chamcha and Gabriel Farishta, are both actors of Indian birth, which establishes them as post-colonial subjects, obviously, and they're also migrants to the Western society of London. And as such, they both inhabit what post-colonial theorist Homi Bhabha calls the migrant culture of the in-between, which denies them the unity of one grand narrative. Because the imposition of Western ideals and cultures on post-colonial nations such as India effectively forces hybridity upon them because they absorb both their traditional cultures and the imperial cultures. And so it's therefore unsurprising that former colonial subjects like Rushdie would offer their own interpretations of classic Western works, which they'd been force-fed throughout their lives. And this revisionary impulse is on clear display in the Satanic Verses, most saliently in the ways in which Rushdie undermines the authority of classic texts through subverting and reinterpreting them by giving a fresh spin to them. And in my paper I looked at his text is full of allusions and plays with different texts, but I focused on two main ones, which was the first to James Joyce, whose works were also modern interpretations of classics, as Ulysses was a reinterpretation of Homer's The Odyssey. And they touch upon a lot of the same themes in their works as well, such as the biblical fall, rebirth, renewal, the figure of Icarus, in order to subvert traditional myths in more socially productive ways. The text is also filled with parallels and allusions to Shakespeare's Othello. At one point, a character points out that Shakespeare's text was in fact a Western mistranslation of an Indian name that was imported from Italy, which emphasizes that even Shakespeare, who is considered, the father of modern English literature, even he pawned his plots and characters from those who came before him, whether historicists or Italian poets or Greek mythology. So that Shakespeare was himself a prolific borrower of literary content and form proves the rich potential of such techniques and further challenges this notion of originality or a true sense of authenticity, which Rushdie is very much against. So the cultural and literary eclecticism of his work results in a fierce defense and celebration of hybridity, which is a concept relevant to both post-colonial and postmodern studies. In fact, Rushdie identifies the process of hybridization as the most crucial dynamic of the Satanic Verses. And his stylistic hybridity, which is expressed through the wide range of literary influences and source materials from which he draws, reflects that of his characters' migrant selves. Both the narrator and the characters pick and choose among the influences, whether Eastern or Western, Hindi, Muslim, Christian, cinematic or literary, at their disposal. And at the text conclusion, the character Saladin rejects the Western ideals that he's so long mimicked or imitated in favor of embracing his Indian culture, which suggests that he's retained the most crucial aspect of hybridity, which I viewed as the freedom to adopt and discard cultures and identities as one chooses. So ultimately, his choice reinforces Rushdie's valorization of the migrant's condition and its hybrid potential, declaring, if the old refused to die, the new could not be born. Rushdie's postmodern aesthetic, characterized by his vast range of literary allusions and reinterpretations, the hybridization of his text, is therefore ideally suited for his exploration of the post-colonial migrant condition. And the text's subversion of colonial and textual authority attests to Rushdie's claim that mélange, hodgepodge, a bit of this and a bit of that, is how newness enters the world.
I tried to catch most of that. What does that word mean that you used? It sounded like satanic, but it wasn't, I don't think. And I'm not.
Satanic verses.
What is that? Can you define that for me, Miss?
Oh, you mean
what that means?
The book?
Is that a book?
Oh yes. Well, it's Salman Rushdie's probably most famous one. It's the one that got him the fatwa and the death warrant and everything. But it actually refers. It's another way actually that he sort of undermines textual authority, because the satanic verses refers to sort of a disputed part of the Quran, and
interesting. Okay.
The idea that Muhammad maybe was under the influence of the devil rather than God in writing a certain part. But
so it's a book.
Yes, it's a novel.
Thank you.
I'm sorry.
Thank you. No,
I should have clarified that.
No, you probably did. I was trying to keep up with you. Very good. Thank you.
So Marina, you're saying, right, that I just want to make sure I got it right. You can tell me if this is right or wrong. That all those wonderful pieces, the pastiche or the bringing together of all these elements or textual allusions, really ends up empowering somehow a character to then sort of create or choose his or her own space, or space as well as self or self-concept. So it's actually something good that you sort of, that you know, Rushdie's kind of ripping up all these other texts like a salad, and then it comes out very tasty and nice. At the end, from the point of view of the character, is that an okay characterization, or did I miss something essential?
No, I think that's essentially it. It's sort of, it's very, well, basically as Homi Bhabha talks about occupying the third space, and essentially, like, rather than just being in between all these things, like the idea of just throwing everything together in a hodgepodge and taking bits and pieces amounts to something new, and a creation of, yes, a new place and a new state of being.
It's no longer the negative, I'm not this,
right.
I'm somehow nothing, or I'm all messed up.
Right.
Okay.
It's more of, you're more than the sum of all your parts.
Mm-hmm.